This is the Zach Nevin podcast thing, and this is my guest.
Hey, John Haywood.
So, John, how did you get started with your creative journey?
Oh, many years ago. um, it started in eighth grade at Hudson High School. I took a journalism class, and I had Lance Wheeler as a teacher, and of course being a videographer and photographer for the WRGB Channel 6 News. Um,
With this
I saw
massive
what he was
camera.
doing. Oh yeah, the big cameras back in the day. And there were a couple other photographers that I got to meet through him, BJ Pendergast and Robert Reganey, a couple of those guys. And then eventually there was a camera store. There was a photo shop down on Warren Street called Hudson Photographic Center that we all know and love. And that's how I got to meet Scott, your father, and he was a big influence on my photography too. But yeah, it all started back in eighth grade in Hudson High School. I think I was 12 when I started, and I've been doing it ever since. We had a dark room at the school that my friend Ryan Oswald and I we brought back to life, so to speak, and we were doing black and white photography, and we were doing mostly school, the high school sports, a lot of basketball and baseball and things like that. We'd travel around and do things, and from there it's grown, and as the digital age has come into photography, I've adapted to that, and here I am.
What gear did you use back then and today?
My first camera was a Nikon FG that I bought, I think it was for $150 at a camera show at Hudson Valley Community College. And from there I moved up. I got myself a power drive, which was the big thing that to automatically advance the film. That was a big deal back then. And then I moved up and I got a camera that was an autofocus, was a Nikon M8008, and then that was the camera that I used for a while. And then for a little while, I had taken a break from photography when I was working up in Albany and all that. And then I got back into it. It was it was all about mostly digital cameras. I still had my FG and the other ones, but I ended up buying a D80, and then from there I got a D7000, and then the one that I currently use now is a D750, and that's a full frame. I made the jump to full frame, which I absolutely love.
So you're a Nikon guy.
Oh yeah, it was all the way through. Never look back.
So did you go to school for photography, like college?
No, I'm all self-taught, and I learned from the people around me. I read some books. I
Any
took.
workshops?
I've done one workshop in all these years. It was with Carl Heilman, who is a very well-known photographer in the Adirondacks. He did a workshop out in Old Forge a few years, well, quite a few years ago that I attended to, probably about 10 or 11 years ago, and that was pretty interesting. But it's all been self-taught and like around me throughout the years. A lot of trial and error, a lot of mistakes, a lot of bad pictures.
I'm thinking a lot of bad pictures as well. I think we all have. Like looking back at the first year of like me shooting like down like grass and stuff like that.
Yeah, if you're not coming out with bad photos, you're not doing it right.
True.
It's a rite of passage.
So what's your subject matter nowadays? I see you do a lot of waterfalls.
Yeah, I still do waterfalls. I like to do landscapes. I like to try to eliminate the human element when possible. Very rarely will you see me use or make a photograph where there are actually like people in it. Every now and then I will, if I'm doing an assignment, or the need arises, or if it just looks cool. Um, but I like the Adirondacks. I love the Adirondacks, and I've spent a tremendous amount of time up there. I spent a lot of time in the Hudson Valley and the Finger Lakes last year, before COVID hit. Um, I was doing those areas to write a few waterfall guidebooks that I did. So waterfalls is kind of like my main thing, but I still love to do landscapes of all different types.
What made
Um,
you so drawn to waterfalls?
yeah, way back when I had this crazy idea to do a calendar, and I was trying to think of a subject to do, and it was recommended that I should do waterfalls. And then, it turned out that I got a waterfall guide for the Adirondacks, and my fiance and I, we went up there and we chased a few of the directions down, and we got to a few waterfalls, and it was just like really, really awesome back then, especially up there because there's some really big ones and some just really outstanding waterfalls all around the place. But so I made the calendar, and it was called Waterfalls of Upstate New York, and that's became very popular, and it's sold very well. And I just kind of kept going with it every year, and each year I would have to go out and photograph more waterfalls, and I'd have to hike and track them down and look for them, and it just kind of got to be a big thing for me. And it just kind of stuck, and then I got known for it, and one thing led to another. I'm the waterfall guy, and here I am with a long, long list of waterfalls and a few waterfall books that I've written, and it's been a lot of fun. The waterfalls are cool because they're literally everywhere, and it's not like you can go somewhere and they're not going to look kind of the same. Some of them will look a little similar, but there's just so many different types and shapes and sizes. It keeps it interesting.
How many have you photographed?
Hundreds and hundreds, probably. I don't even know. I've There's just so many. I mean, in this one small area of the Adirondacks alone, in um, even in just Essex County, there's hundreds and hundreds of waterfalls. And same with Hamilton County. And then if you go out to the Finger Lakes, forget it. There's just within a square mile you can find a hundred. The Hudson Valley starts to flatten out a little bit, but you can still find some really nice ones. All down through the valley and up in the Catskills, especially. There's tons up there. So yeah, probably
Millions?
push, probably pushing 1,000. I would imagine.
Wow.
Well, that might be a little over, but I'm I know I'm over 500 probably because of all the time that I've put in.
Are you currently working on any projects? Or
Um,
is the waterfall an ongoing project?
Waterfalls are always ongoing for me. I was just out this morning. I was up at Thatcher Park this morning scoping out some waterfalls up there. There's still like 6 inches of snow on the ground, so we were kind of in the forest looking, but I found a couple up there that I wanted to map out. Um, I did the Adirondack Waterfall Challenge, and I did the Finger Lakes Waterfall Challenge, the Hudson Valley Waterfall Challenge, and the New York State Waterfall Guide. Those were my big projects that I did. Currently, I don't really have a waterfall project. I'm working on a couple other books. They're going to be very different compared to anything that I've done so far, and I think it's a lot different than anything that the region here has had, um, as far as content or subject matter. And it's all about getting people outdoors. But I'm kind of excited about it. It's just we'll have to wait and see what comes of it. But I'm excited.
Are you going county by county? Or are you just doing
With
it randomly?
with the waterfalls, I like to do. I mean, I'll categorize them by county just to bring them down. Um, I'll do my trips, but usually I just kind of go where the wind takes me, so to speak. I'll look at the maps, like I'll look at Google Maps or Google Earth, and I learned this from my friend Russell Dunn, who's a very well-known waterfall guy. He's written several books, or, well, more than several now, but he's written a bunch of books on waterfalls, and he's kind of like the quote-unquote expert on waterfalls, and he's very well respected in the community. Um, and he and I are very similar, and we'll look at topographical maps, and we'll look at different features, and look for water and look for, you know, the
Trying to
steep
spot them
drops.
out.
Yeah, we'll try to find them, and then we'll go hike and see if there's something there. And sometimes there's nothing at all, and sometimes we get lucky and there's some good stuff. We found quite a few waterfalls together like that.
Do you ever go back to the same location, like say like winter, spring, summer, fall?
Absolutely, definitely. Yep. Yeah, there's what's Split Rock Falls in Elizabethtown up in Essex County. That's one that's very close to the road, and that one's very cool. You can get that one in all seasons. It's got totally different looks. Like in the summertime, it's really nice. The water is just this really nice, clear color with a little bit of a green tint to it, and you can see straight through to the bottom. And then in the wintertime, it's really nice up there because the water will freeze around it, and you'll still get that color, that colorization of the ice, and it just takes on so many different looks even throughout the winter as it gets more and more frozen, and then as it begins to thaw out. But I've been to quite a few different waterfalls at different times of the year just to see what they look like.
What's the farthest you've gone for a waterfall, like hiking or driving wise?
Well, driving, it's been a couple hundred miles. Um, like I've driven out to Niagara Falls. Obviously, a couple of years ago, somebody asked me if I'd ever been to Niagara Falls, and I said no. And they're like, "Wait, you're the waterfall guy. You've never been to Niagara Falls?" And I was just like, "Oh, everybody's been there. Everybody knows that one." But then I just felt kind of guilty, and then I ended up going, and then I ended up going twice in 2 years. But that's a cool spot, and you can now go down and see that one as it's frozen in the winter, which is nice. I'd like to try that, and maybe next year I can get there and do that. But hiking wise, uh, was it the most I've hiked is about 9 miles, give or take.
Have you
Over.
ever taken a commission before, and how did that go?
No, I haven't. No, never done that. And I've always wondered about that, but I'm kind of glad that I haven't. Then I get to maintain my freedom, my creativity. But that's not something I've done yet.
But you've done like prints for people and stuff like that, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I've got tons of photos. My work was featured in a gallery in Lake Placid. I had a lot of stuff up there. I had a show at Columbia Green Community College. I had photos down at your dad's shop there for a while. I've had things all over the place. A lot of popular ones, a lot of popular prints I've done. A lot of the well-known waterfalls, a lot of the more obscure waterfalls. I try to give people something different than the mainstream stuff. I like to add a little variety.
Do you have a routine or schedule when you're working with your camera?
Not really. I am just so unorthodox. It's not even funny. And that's actually like something that I mentioned him before. Ryan Oswald, who I was in school with when we were doing the photography together, we always joked about how unorthodox we were. Um, but yeah, I'm like a mess. I'm a
Mhm.
disaster when I go out. Sometimes I'll get out there, I will organize all my stuff, and I'll be good to go. In as far as preparation is concerned, I've got my camera bag, I've got the spare batteries, all the cameras and the batteries get charged the night before, everything's cleaned and ready to go, the memory cards are ready to go, everything's good to go. I just pick up my bags and leave in the morning when I go or whenever. But then when I get out there, it's just sometimes it just turns into chaos. And I'll get out there, and because there's always it's always ever changing, and from minute to minute, second to second. Like I was at Rainbow Falls in the Adirondacks once, um, on the Adirondack Mountain Reserve, and I was standing there for like 15 minutes, and I was waiting for the light. And that's which is something I do often is I'll stand there, sit there, and I'll wait for this light. Like I'll look up, and if there's a cloud coming that I think will give me a little bit of muted light that I want for a shot, I'll sit there and I'll wait for that cloud to move. And sometimes it disappears, and sometimes it works out. But you got to be patient as far as that's concerned. But going back to that waterfall, I stood there and I waited and I waited and I waited, and then I was like, all right, well, as it gets darker, and then you got to hike out, like 3.5 miles. It's like, all right, well, time to go. And then
Mhm.
as soon as I put my camera away, and I started to walk away, and I turned around and the light hit, and I was like, oh, geez, it was a mad rush to get everything out, and I didn't have time to set my tripod up. So I'm standing there, and I think I was doing 1/6 of a second or 1/8 of a second exposures with my camera handheld,
Wow.
trying to get this thing. I couldn't do the long exposures, obviously, but and I was just ripping them off, hoping that one of them would stick. And I was fortunate enough to get a couple of them that were sharp enough to use. But it worked out. So,
Have you ever forgotten like a battery or a memory card? Like when you're in the woods, you're like, oh, I forgot my memory card.
oh yeah, yeah. I forgot my memory card once, and that'll never happen again. I learned my lesson the hard way. Yep, I was out and I had some outrageous photos, and I go and I shoot, and it says demo mode. I'm like, what is demo mode? And I'm looking like, oh no. I drove all the way up to Thatcher Park from where I am here, which isn't a long drive, but it was the fact that I missed some really cool shots. So that's never going to happen again.
Knock on wood.
Knock on wood, yeah. That's why I've developed this preparation routine I have.
Do you where do you find your inspiration?
Oh, geez. All over the place, really. Um, like I said, some of the people that are around me. Um, I, I I just try to like. I've always been a fan of Ansel Adams and Edward Weston. Alan Ross is. He was Ansel Adams' assistant for a while. I I follow him on Facebook. Or Facebook friends, quote unquote. So I follow his work on there, which is really fascinating. The when he does the prints, um, but a lot of the inspiration just comes from what I've learned over the years and what I've seen over the years, and I try to put different spins on it, or I try to do things differently, so to speak. I want to be individual. Um, I just try to be a little bit different. I don't want to be like drastically different. I don't want to be like way far out there, which there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't want to be like so far outside of the norm that it's just weird. I don't know. Some people might think that's like strange. And it's hard to describe, but I don't want to go out and like make abstract photographs of mountains. That's what I mean. I want to be a landscape photographer, but I don't want to do the same thing. Like you'll see a lot of shots. Last year it was a lot of the same shots in the Adirondacks from the same spot of the same scene, in a couple different things during the fall. And I was like, oh, come on, we got to go to some different spots. We got to do something different than that. It's like everybody's doing the
Change
same
your
thing.
angles.
Yeah, and it wasn't even that. It was like it's as if they were standing in line at this spot, and they were standing on a dock on the ground, setting up their gear and shooting the same. I'm like, oh, just don't do that. So I just want to give variety. I just want to give freshness to the landscape photography.
Are you still learning or researching things?
Oh, absolutely. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I still take horrible photographs every now and then. I'll get out there and I'll just blow it sometimes. And that's what happens when you're trying to do new things. And I'm always reading and looking at articles and seeing what other people are doing that works, or what they've learned, or advice that they offer from different situations that they've been in, or different lessons that I can just pull from anywhere. I'm always learning. I'm always trying to absorb information.
When researching and learning, do you look at past photographers or recent or a mix of both?
Everything.
Because you said like
Yep.
Ansel Adams, so
Yep. Yep. I've got over in my bookcase. I've got. Let me go grab it real quick. I will show you the two books that I got.
uh,
among all the other Ansel Adams books and Edward Weston's ones, though. But I got these here, and these are quite old. So the basic techniques of photography. Now, this obviously Ansel Adams didn't have digital photography back in the day. And then there's a book two as well, and those and these were when I posted pictures that I got these on Facebook when I got them. And Alan Ross, who I mentioned earlier, was Ansel's assistant. He applauded them, and I could, he told me they're just phenomenal books. But even though they're not digital books, they're back to the film days. There's still a lot of good information in there as far as like setting up the shots and your preparation and all that information and all the process that goes into making a photograph. So that's even the old stuff is extremely valuable these days. And photographers shouldn't just look to the future or to the current. I think we should all look towards everything and form um, one big melting pot of information.
Since you like the previous photographers, do you shoot film or have you shot in film more
Oh yeah,
recently?
yeah, I still shoot film. It's funny because a couple years ago I got a Mamiya. It was a 4x5, and I was out shooting Velvia film in a medium format, which was just great. But it's kind of funny because I'm out there and I've got my regular camera and my regular gear, and then I've got this big, heavy, clunky box that I'm carrying around, everything heavy, and I climbed a mountain with it, and I'm doing shots up there, and the thing was just so heavy, but it was worth it. And I really enjoy shooting film. I wish I still had my dark room. I had a dark room set up in my grandparents' house when I was growing up. My grandfather let me set one up in one of the spare bedrooms. So that was always cool. That's how I spent my summers, going down in there and developing my own film and printing my own photos. It was such a funky setup, but it worked. And I'd go and shoot the football games or the basketball games, and I'd come home and develop my film and do all that stuff. It was a lot of fun. And doing film, if you can develop it yourself, is really rewarding and really satisfying because you're creating and you have so much control over it. And even to this day, when I do digital and I'm doing my post processing, I still only use really the dodge and the burn features on Lightroom or the Photoshop. And people, I've been criticized before. I mean, oh, it's so much easier to use the masking or the layers and doing this and doing that. You have more control. I'm like, no, nah. I'm like, this is me. This is what makes me unique. This is where I want to be with what I do. This gives me more control over photographs. I can hammer that little pin-sized highlight, or I can bring the shadows up in that in the dime-sized area over here without affecting the entire photograph. And I try to give that, and I hopefully it offers a unique look to my photography.
When starting out, did you have any negative reaction to your work? Like when you're posting it online and stuff?
Yeah. I mean, the one thing when it comes to waterfalls that you're always going to see, and it's the great debate, is when you do what the slow shutter speeds, where the water has that really soft, silky look
So,
to it, like Loki. And you'll get people that, oh, I hate that, it's not real, blah blah blah. And then they only want it where you're shooting at like 1/60th of a second or 1/1000th of a second. And I, teach their own. Everybody can do whatever they want. I don't have a preference. I don't criticize people based on their shutter speeds. uh, but that's always been the one thing, and I see that a lot. A lot of other people get criticized for the same thing, and it's just people's opinions. It is what it is. I'm, people will say, oh, you're a purist for not doing this or that or anything, but not me. I mean, I'm not. I am far from a purist. But people want a photograph as if it's just like straight out of the camera, no post processing, no anything. And other people, they'll doctor it up. And the one thing that I'm not a big fan of when it comes to that though. Um, is when you really really heavily manipulate a photo to the point where I feel that it doesn't become a photograph anymore. It's just like it's digital art. Like if you start to replace things in the photograph with other things from other images or a program that you bought online, then it's not. You know, that's where I draw the line. I'll never do that. It's got to be real. Like you see people replacing skies. There's programs they advertise on Facebook where you can replace the sky in images that they supply for you that you didn't even take that picture of that sky. And that's not, I mean, it's nice. The photos will look nice, but it's not real to me. It's not your photograph. But going back, I got a little off track. Going back to negative feedback, that's really the only negative that I've had. I've been lucky in that regard. I've been fortunate not to get blasted by by people for anything. So I'm happy with that.
Are there any other creative things you do besides photography?
Oh, I like to write. I do that now. I've always liked to write. Since becoming friends with my with Russell Dunn, he's a writer, and his wife is as well. And I've started writing more and more. I do a lot of writing, and I've done a lot of writing about waterfalls and hiking for different magazines and websites, and I've done uh, writing for books. And of course, I've written my own books, and I'm working on a couple of my own books now that don't have to do with waterfalls. Um, I'm doing kind of a mix of like fiction and nonfiction. I'm writing a book relating to the Revolutionary War as it um, relates to like the Battle of Saratoga and New York from Albany up with the Knox Trail and different stuff like that. And that's the fact. The nonfiction part is it's all relative to the Revolutionary War, but I'm using a fictionary character in there that's going to obviously be doing things that didn't really happen, but those things that he's doing tie into actual historic events that are part of it. So it's just a little weird. It's kind of like in the movies in Hollywood,
Do
but in a book.
you have or had you had any mentors, and how were they helpful to you?
Yeah. Biggest impact that I've had was your dad. was he Scott and Evan down at the Hudson Photo Center. He was always a big inspiration to me. I spent a lot of time hanging around that shop down there. So I do owe a lot to him. I mentioned before, I spent a lot of time hanging around with BJ Pendergast. He used to do sports for the Register Star and the Independence, or I think it was just the Independent way back. People nowadays might not remember that newspaper. I'm showing my age. Um, he was doing that, but he was a big inspiration down there. Lance Wheeler, obviously, he got me started. Myself and Ryan Oswald, he got us started in the photography. I wouldn't be doing the photography had I not taken that journalism class with him. Um, so big shout out to him for that. And over the years, I've met some people here and there, and I've read books and watched videos of different ones. But the ones that I've mentioned, those are the big ones.
Is creating like books and photography your full-time thing, or do you have a normal job on the side?
I have a job. It's not normal. I've got funky hours, but I do have a full time job. I've always worked full time and done the books and the photography. I just changed jobs about 5 or 6 months ago, so now I have even more time. I've gone from working 6 days a week to working four, and I've got a little more time to travel and do my work, which is a blessing. I have so much more freedom to do what I love now, and this spring and summer, look out! I'm gonna be a man on fire. I'm gonna be out there endlessly. Um, yeah, it's nice to have that freedom now because before it was I would sit inside and see such nice days going by, and like you'd see those puffy clouds with that nice blue sky and a beautiful summer day, and you just want to go out and do landscape photography, and you're stuck inside for 8 to 10 hours, and it just was awful. It was torture.
Do you ever see yourself stopping creating?
No, no, I'll always be doing this. The only thing that I'm planning on stopping is working that full time job. If I can, I'm close. A couple more books that I write, I think I can move off the working thing, or even just go part time, and then kind of live my dream, so to speak. I'm looking forward to that day.
Do you ever carry a sketchbook or a notebook around when you're out and about?
Yep, waterproof notebook with waterproof pen. My friend Russell, he went down to in the Catskills one day with another friend of ours, and they hiked an area, but it was pouring rain, and all of his notes got destroyed from that day because the notebook got soaking wet, and it was just he couldn't recover any of his notes.
Wow.
So I immediately got him a waterproof notebook and pen to go with it. So that'll never happen again.
What kind of things do you write down? Like what you see or camera settings?
Yeah, I don't usually do camera settings. I have I have like a routine for camera settings that I use, as odd as that might sound. Um, I have certain shutter speeds that I like to use, and I know which shutter speeds will coincide with the aperture settings and the ISO and all that, just from being out there so much and shooting water, and shooting water and waterfalls can be really difficult because a lot of times you're photographing a nice white waterfall. The water comes down, it's foamy and white and bright, and you're in this gorge where everything else is dim and dark, and not so bright. Or if you're out in the sun, then that the highlights are just blown right out of the thing, and it can be really challenging between the highlights and the shadows. And so I've come to learn a lot of the different settings, and I can just kind of oftentimes just kind of get a feel of it from the lighting, and just like go to town and just set up and shoot without having to really focus on the settings. Which I'm not patting myself on the back or the shoulder or anything. It just comes with 30 years of experience. 30 years of making mistakes, I should say. Um, but yeah, that's the thing.
Do you ever go hiking without your camera, or you always have a camera on you,
I've done it a couple times. Um,
like for scouting reasons as well?
yeah, I've done it a couple times before. I've always regretted it. I just I should always have it with me. But there are times when I've gone out, like you said, like scouting or checking things out, when I want to move quickly and I don't want the bag hanging off my back, and I just want to cut down on the weight so I can move a little quicker. Moving through the areas, or sometimes I'll bushwhack through, and up north especially, there's lovely spruce that just tries to tear you apart and catches on everything, and it makes it easier to have a smaller profile.
Have you ever like trespassed for a picture?
No, never. No,
Have,
that's a big thing. Go ahead.
have you ever gotten like permission? Like say you post a picture and then like the next day somebody says, "Oh, I have a waterfall on my property. Want to come and take a picture?"
Yeah, I've been invited to do photos, and like a couple of years ago, I was invited to stay on top of Whiteface Mountain, at the research center. I had a friend that was like an intern up there, and they invited us to go up. It was the night when there was a meteor shower. Unfortunately, it was a little cloudy, but it was nice. We got some nice pictures from up there. I got a nice sunset picture and a nice sunrise picture. I slept on the floor in the one area where the elevator comes up. We had mats to sleep on. But yeah, I've been invited to different places, to do photography.
So you've never crossed over the sign that says "Don't trespass"?
No, no, that's like a big deal with the in the waterfall community too. Especially like last year, there were so many places became off limits because people were going in and making a mess. they were trashing these places. So the landowners were had they previously didn't mind people coming, they closed them off to the public. And but with the photography and because I'll use these waterfalls in books and guides and things like that, and if I use them and I can't use anything that is obtained like on somebody's property, I have the strong ethics when it comes to that stuff. I want to be respectful to landowners and to the people out there.
Have you ever knocked on anybody's door? Like, say you see a waterfall from the road on their property. Have you ever knocked on their door?
That I haven't done. I know a lot of people that have, but I haven't. I'm shy like that. I don't have. I don't know. I mean, if it was something like really amazing, maybe I would. I don't know, but I'd have to take probably an hour to get up the nerve.
do you do you have any mentees underneath you? Like, do you ever mentor people? Like, teach them how to take pictures?
Oh, I would love to have a mentee. Years ago, before she moved to Florida, my fiance's daughter, um, I was teaching her photography, and I bought her a camera. Excuse me, I bought her a camera, and I was teaching her. I bought her a couple books and some other things, and we would go out and do some shooting. And I showed her how to do some photos of waterfalls, and we did a couple pictures around the city of Albany, and she got published in the newspaper a couple times and on the news. So that was exciting. Um, Peter Lick, um, who's also another inspiration of mine. I'm a big fan of his work. He actually commented on one of her photos online because we were doing a thing. She had a school project, and she was taking a photography class in her school, and the purpose of the project was to pick a photographer and try to make a photograph that emulated one of theirs, the photographer's work, and not to copy it so much as to just make something that looked similar.
Close.
And so we did that, and then we got down there, and yeah, I tagged him on it, and he told her it was nicely done, and she was really excited about that.
what do, what do you call yourself? For me, I have thrown around artist and creative. What do you, since you write books, what are you? You're a photographer, an author?
My Facebook thing, what's to say? Author and photographer, explorer and adventurer, all wrapped into one neat package. I'm a creator, I guess you would say. I mean, I'm an adventurer, and I'm a creator. Um, the create creator part led to the adventurer part because in order for me to get out there and create what I create, I've got to do some adventuring. So
True.
it's a whole lot of fun.
Have you met any like cool people when you're out exploring, or do you mostly stick by yourself?
Oh, I've met a lot of people. And it's funny. I've met quite a few people here and there, um, and I look forward to that a lot of times, especially up north, because people are so nice. They're just so friendly. Um, excuse me. The people at a lot of the shops throughout the Adirondacks that I've visited, when I had my calendar and I would go and see if they would sell it, and I would make the deliveries and things. I've gotten to know so many great people. And then just being out in the woods, um, you'll meet people just by chance out there too. I was up on a mountain a few years back, and there was a guy, and we were talking for a while up there, and had no idea who each other were, but we were just chatting, and it was great. People can be really, really nice, and especially up north, I find that people are just very friendly.
Not here.
Oh yeah, they're friendly here, but up north, it's a whole different kind of friendly. I don't know what it is, but it's part of why I really love going up there. Yeah, I met a couple a few years back at Natural Stone Bridges Caves, and yeah, I was just taking a picture of a little waterfall coming down the side of the thing, and the guy asked me if I liked waterfalls, and I was like, "Why, yes, I do." And we got talking, and one thing led to another, and I told him who I was, and that was cool. And then later on, they threw me for a loop. I see them; they were standing over the thing, and they're looking at me, and they're talking. I'm like, "Oh boy, what's going on?" And then all of a sudden, the guy comes over and asks me for my autograph. So they wanted to have their picture taken with me, and so I created a little bit of a stir up there with that, and people. I'm like not the guy. I'm very humble. I try to be very humble with that, so that just threw me for a little bit of a loop. But yeah, I've done book signings now, and I've gotten used to doing it. But that was the very first time that I've ever been asked for an autograph. So, and they have people like, why do you want to have your picture taken with me? And like, I'm nobody, But so yeah, I've met so many great people out there. It's just been one of my favorite parts of what I do.
So what editing software do you use? You said Photoshop, Lightroom.
Yeah, that's it. Just those two. I've got Photoshop Elements and the Lightroom.
And you do like basic editing. You don't do anything crazy like you said. You just stick with like the
No,
dodge burn.
yep. I love the dodge and burn. That's my thing. If I could have a bingo chip tied to a wire and just move it over the screen, I would. Like back in the old days. Um,
You ever play with like, the levels, or you
yeah,
just do
yeah. I'll mess with the levels. Yep, for shadows and different ones like that. I'll use those, but the
the
bulk of what I'll
layers?
do. No,
You mess with.
I don't even know how to do layering or masking or any of that. I have no clue. I have no idea how to do any of that, and I don't have any desire to learn. But I'll use the levels for that. I'll adjust the temperature every now and then. I found a neat trick that I used. I had a photo at at your dad's shop down there a couple of years ago of the New Croton Dam down in Westchester County, and I did it in black and white. And I put a little bit of a different spin on it by adjusting the color temperature, even though it's a black and white, and it just made it really cool looking. It gave it this really nice tone, and it was just a knockout. And I have a copy of it. It's up there in the corner where my finger's pointing up there. Um, but I was really happy with it. So always, that's part of the never stop learning, never stop experimenting kind of thing.
Playing around, seeing what works.
Absolutely, yeah, because you never know. I mean, who would think like, oh, color temperature? Well, on a black and white, all right, it worked out.
Have you ever done service side of photography like portraits, weddings?
Uh, yeah, I've done weddings just for friends before. Um, just it's not my thing. I don't really have all the right gear for all that, but I've done it. Just more of like a favor kind of thing. I've got paid. Excuse me. Portrait stuff. Yeah, I've done some of that. I worked at Picture People at Crossgates Mall part time many years ago. I did that to get some experience in doing portrait photography, but that wasn't the kind of portrait photography I was looking for because that was more like rush them in and rush them out, and try to sell them as much as you can, and that's just not me. So it kind of went against what I want to do. Where come in, take your time, and make a nice photograph. Um, but yeah, I've done that.
So what else do you have in your camera bag? Do you have like multiple lenses, filters?
Yeah, I've got my D750, and I've got a what is it, a 16. I don't even know what lens it is. It's like the equivalent of a 24 to 70. Um, so I've got that. I've got a 70 to 200 2.8 Nikon lens that I got for when I was shooting the Albany Empire Arena football team a couple years ago. They reached out to me and asked me to do photography for them. So I worked for them for a season, which is a shame that they aren't going to be back because that was a lot of fun shooting those football games. And I've got a 50 millimeter 1.4, just a little cheapo. It was like $100, just to have it.
The nifty 50.
Yep, yep. And I've still got one of my old 85 1.4 manual focus Nikkor lens. I've still got that, and a couple of the other ones. Um, along with my old camera body. Still, I got those. I had a 500 millimeter with the 2x converter that turned into 1,000. When you put that 2x converter on it, it turned it into like an F800 f stop, and you could barely see out of it.
Wow.
It was so dark. But yeah, I still got that. I've still got a lot of things, but my essential stuff is the one that's on the camera. I can't believe I don't remember what lens that I use primarily, but it's like it's very equivalent to a 70 to or I mean a 24 to 70.
You
It's
use
not.
filters?
Yeah. I have an ND, and I have polarizers, and then I'll have the regular glass ones for protecting the lens. Um, I also have my remote shutter release, and always carry a set of Allen wrenches for my tripod because my legs sometimes come loose.
Do you have any questions for me?
Oh, geez, let's see. Yeah, what are you up to these days? What kind of projects you got going on?
Mostly painting.
Yeah, I've noticed that you're doing some.
And
You live right. You
behind
live
me.
right. Yeah,
That one I did last year.
yeah.
I'm covering up
Well,
my mess of my bedroom.
no,
That's why
true.
it's sideways.
Yeah, that's why I had to get the light on me. That's why I'm kind of crooked here myself. But yeah, I've seen some of your painting stuff going on there. It's fascinating. It's a
Thanks.
lot of your photography. I really like your photography. It's different from what everybody else is doing that I see. It's really it's a nice fresh take on things down there.
Yeah, especially because I go on back roads and not many people have the time to go exploring for a whole day.
Yeah.
Or they'll drive past it a million times and not even recognize it.
Oh, that's the thing, man. Always take time to look at the little stuff. Always appreciate the little things. That's my fiance, she goes hiking with me quite a bit, and she'll have her phone, and she'll always stop and take pictures of these little bitty flowers or little bitty rocks or bugs and insects and things, and she's got it down. She really has the appreciation of all the little things, and she's actually inspired me and taught me to appreciate the little sceneries, the little sub sceneries I call them, or the little bitty things that wouldn't make like a regular photograph, you wouldn't think would make like a photograph, but when you do it, it's really nice. And she's blown my mind a few times with some of the stuff that she's done.
Like old buildings fascinate me, as you can see.
Yeah,
Like buildings I've driven past 1,000 times, and like I finally have the ability to stop and pull over.
yeah, yeah. I liked a lot of that. Like when you were down at the Fergery down there, doing some
Yeah.
work down there. It was really fascinating stuff. And some of the photographs are just really cool that you've done. There was some of the buildings and some of because you take the shot, but you see things within the photograph, and it's just really cool to me.
Thanks. And I like doing panoramas too with Lightroom.
Oh yeah,
I've been doing that a lot. Even if I take like 3 pictures and they're like this much different, a little different, I'll
yeah,
still put it into one image, so it's a bigger file size.
yeah, yeah. I like doing panoramas myself. I like that because sometimes like if you get it, you draw the eye like because you don't have all this stuff up top or on the bottom, and you can really have the ability to draw your eye, to the image in between.
And people can see more of what you're looking at.
Yeah, yep, absolutely.
What keeps you from quitting? Or have you ever thought about it?
No, I mean there have been times when I was really like disappointed with things, after making some silly mistakes or something or whatever. And it's just in the beginning it was difficult. My first round with my calendar was really difficult because the people that I was working with to get it produced and published gave me the runaround, so to speak. And I didn't realize what I was doing. I had no idea. I was new. I was just some knucklehead who wanted to publish a calendar, and yeah, I wanted to publish a calendar and then sell it to businesses who would then sell it. and I learned the hard way. They, I don't know. I don't want to speak ill of anybody, but I felt like they took advantage of me. And so, long story short, after goofing around and dragging their feet, the calendar finally got published, and it was published in mid-January. Anybody that knows any better when it comes to retail and calendars, if you're not hitting the shelves or getting delivered to the stores by May, the latest, you're out of luck. And yeah, so I had a really expensive problem there. I had $1,000 that was basically wasted on calendars, and I was really disappointed in that. And I was just like, oh, the heck with this, it's whatever. And then I was like, then come to find out after it was published, also there were so many mistakes in there. Like the guy that made it, designed the calendar, had like Valentine's Day on a whole different day, not the 14th. And different things were really wrong in there, and things that I wouldn't think to check to proofread because it just makes sense. you know
Like Christmas
and
is on the 25th.
yeah, and different things like that. And it's just there's so many problems with it. And I got to thinking about that. I'm like, well, if this guy can do it and screw it up so bad, then what's stopping me? And so I went to work and I just started to design my own. I made I made a grid on Microsoft Word, and I researched holidays and all the dates and everything. And I created my calendar and I put the holidays in their place in the proper spots. and and, uh, and then I created the pages for the photographs that corresponded that I wanted to use with the waterfalls. And the rest is history. And then I took control. I took full control over it, and I did it myself. And it worked out. And it didn't cost me a penny to design it. Didn't I mean nothing but my time. And for anybody that's thinking about doing it, just do it yourself. It's so easy if you get to learn Microsoft Word. It doesn't take much at all. And then you can find a printer. There's a lot of them online, but don't not do it because you're afraid or you think you don't know, or just email me and I'll help you with it. But
You print
it's easy.
yourself
I
or you
I had
outsource?
yeah, I had a printer up in Colony for a while, and then I was using them. And if I do it again, I'll probably end up doing it online, but I probably won't be doing calendars again, just because it's very time consuming. And it's a lot of work. It really is a lot of work for me to go out and photograph all these waterfalls and then come back and design this with all this other stuff that I've got going on. It's just, and then the cost that having to drop 1,000 to $1,500 on stock to get them out to the, and then you're not guaranteed to sell it all because obviously calendars have a shelf life. I'm happy with my books. My books don't expire
That's true.
forever. So, but
And
it
for your
was
own
rewarding.
pictures, do you outsource those or you have a printer at home?
I have a printer at home. I have an Epson, a nice big Epson. I've had that for quite a few years. Unfortunately, that has started to go on the decline. I it was starting to print a little bit of a black line across my photos, and then I cleaned it, and it was good for a couple pictures. Started doing it again, and I'm like, oh, this is costing me a fortune in paper. Um, so I was like, all right. So then I have my photos available on SmugMug on online. They're available for sale on there, and I started having them printed. But then I found metallic prints, and I have fallen in love with metallic prints on a metallic paper, and it's just or the colors and the richness, and it gives a shine. It's just tremendous. That one up here, my lightning shot up there, you get it right, and then this one here and that one there. Those are all. Oh, and this one over here. Those are basically they're all. Yeah, pretty much all of them are on metallic paper, but it just the colors and the richness are just really tremendous with those, and I really just love how they look. Um, if you get like a sunset or a sunrise picture with the oranges, like the lightning shot there, that sunset, that orange just like glows and it reflects. And it's just really, really crazy to look at if you move it around with the light. So that I will outsource for, just because I'm just absolutely in love with the metallic prints.
So where can people find you?
Oh geez, I don't even know. My I had a website and then I let it slide. Um, Best chance of finding me now. I'm bringing back my Waterfalls of Upstate New York website. Um, I might create a website for myself again. I'm not sure. I just, time wise, it just, I wasn't able to do anything with it. But for the waterfalls thing and with the books that I've got going on and all this other stuff, I'm probably going to need to again. Unfortunately, I've used up my name, so finding a URL that works is going to be hard. I'm on Facebook. I'm going to create a new Facebook page just for myself as a public figure, just because it's gotten to that point for me. Um, because I've got people that send me friend requests that I have no idea who they are. It's a little funky. So I'm going to create a page so they can follow me on that. Um, it's like I said, it's gotten to that point where it's it's time for me to do that. Not that I'm any celebrity or anything like that, but it's just in terms of ease to find me and to find my work and what I'm doing and what I'm up to and to keep everybody up to date. It's just the right move for me for now. Um, but yeah, it's waterfalls of upstate New York.com, and New York is spelled out. That's the website that I've got coming back. It's always been there, but it's been dormant. I've got the Instagram. I've got a couple with the waterfalls upstate New York. I'm on Instagram for myself, for John Haywood and some other stuff. And yeah, we're just kind of doing things. COVID really, I just haven't done much because the outdoors has been so flooded with people, and I'm trying to just be careful and do the right thing. And I don't want to go places where places are just
Act.
crazy with people. It's just insane. Uh, like up in the Adirondacks, it was just mayhem this past year. And so I didn't even go up there all summer, all spring. I was just kind of like, yeah, forget it. Um, trying to go to a state park. They were
Yeah, a
getting
lot of them are closed. Yeah.
yeah, they were getting closed down, and then when they would open, they'd be shut down by noon because it'd be at capacity already, and just made it difficult. And I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to take my time. I'm going to work on some books. I'm going to do my thing. I wrote some articles for some magazines. I had that one in Hudson Valley magazine that um, they had a picture of High Falls from Philmont on the cover. They call it the Waterfall Guide, where I had 27 waterfall locations that people can visit to get away from like the mainstream stuff. Uh, I've written for Adirondack. That's the magazine for the Adirondack Mountain Club, and I've had Adirondack Peaks. So I took my time to do more writing instead of traveling, which was nice because it let me hone that part of my craft.
Have more creative outlets.
What's that?
Having more creative outlets.
Oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. Next thing you know, I'll be putting on my Bob Ross wig and I'll be doing oil painting. I'll be painting happy trees. I'll be painting happy waterfalls.
Have you ever done any video work at the waterfalls, like for fun?
Yeah, yeah. I've got a couple GoPros. My camera will do 4K video. My phone. I set up a lot of videos on YouTube under the Dig the Falls YouTube page for waterfalls. Just little, mostly like 30-second to 60-second clips of waterfalls, just so people can get an idea of what the waterfall looks like or the surrounding area. Um, I like to do that too because then it gives people that wouldn't be able to get out to these places a chance to actually like be there without being there or to see it when they may not be able to see it in person. So it gives them something. But yeah, I've done some video work. I'm trying to get more into it. I'm actually thinking about, and I never thought I'd be saying this, but I'm actually thinking about. I'm considering hiring a videographer to follow me around this year for some projects that I'm working on or that I have planned. Um,
Of vlogging.
Yeah, yeah. We're my friend Jim Morse and I. We've got a new thing we're working on called Hops and Falls, where we're visiting waterfalls, and then we'll visit like local breweries and restaurants, and we'll have like the burgers and their craft beers, and it just gives it a nice mix of things. Um, so that's been difficult. We've tried to do it ourselves, but it's always like one sided. Like it's always one of us with the camera and the other one not, and it's like we want it to be a little more natural. So I'm trying to figure out about the best way to go about it, and I think the answer is just to see if there's anybody out there that would be able to accompany us on our adventures and film us. Do the video of us, and then break it down and do the editing and whatever. Maybe or just do the video and just hand it over. I can do it on the computer. Either way. But yeah, all these things that I've never thought I would ever say or do are coming to life now. I
Life is
wish I,
always changing.
yeah, yeah. My biggest regret is I wish I'd always done this when I was younger. But I should have never moved to Albany.
Any other last minute things you want to say or questions you have?
No, I'm pretty good. I appreciate you having me on. This has been really cool. It's good to
Thank
see
you
you
for
as
being
always.
on.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. I'm honored to be a part of it.
Let me know when you're in my neck of the woods.
Yeah, yeah. When things settle down, I've been wanting to come back down, stop in and see your dad again. I haven't seen him in forever. See him on Facebook every now and then, but he gets mad at me sometimes for some of the posts I do. But no, no, yeah, it's just been funky with the COVID stuff going on,
Yeah.
and it's been a real pain in the neck because it was tough for me to come down and visit because of the schedule. A couple times I came down, dropped stuff off for the shop at the house, and it's been difficult with that. But now I have Mondays off, and it's easier for me to do things Mondays and Tuesdays. But everything is upside down at the moment in the world, so yeah. Once things get settled down, we'll have to get out there and do some field work together.
I'm down.
Yeah, yeah, that'd be cool.
So thank you for being on.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.